Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to another live stream. So today we're looking at IELTS speaking and we're going to focus on speaking part 3. So I'm going to get some of you guys to come and join me live. I'll ask you some speaking part 3 questions and then I'll give you some feedback in terms of things you're doing well and what your weaknesses are. More importantly, what your weaknesses are, so you know what areas to focus on to improve your scores. So I'm going to share this link. If you look in the comments, you'll see this link. I just shared this link. So I've left a comment says, like it says here, click on this link to join me live. Click on the link. And then once you join me live, like I said, I'll ask you some part 3 questions and give you some feedback on your main weaknesses. For those of you who don't join me live, you're free to ask me any questions you have in the comments. I'll be looking at the comments and I'll be answering any questions you have as well. And then for any of you who don't know me, my name's Lara Ryan, and I'm the founder of Complete Test Success. I run IELTS courses where I help students with their reading, writing, listening, and speaking. So, if you need more hands-on, one-on-one support, just reach out. But today, what we're doing is we're just focusing on part 3. With the students on my course, I would be doing a full practice speaking test. We do the full part 1, part 2, part 3, and then, give full feedback and scores and, talk about all the different mistakes and how to improve and everything. But today, what I'm doing with you guys right now is just helping you basically identify your weaknesses. And, from there, you can take it and work on improving whatever weaknesses we find, or kind of avoiding repeating whatever mistakes you make, that type of thing. I've been doing a lot of practice IELTS speaking tests recently, and I think probably the 2 biggest mistakes I've been seeing most recently are people trying to use difficult language and people trying to use difficult ideas. Now, with vocab and grammar, you have to think of it this way. When you get to the test, your goal is to show the examiner how good you are now, not how good you wish you were, right? And this is the mistake that I kind of see quite regularly in the practice speaking tests I've been doing, where people feel that they can in some way manipulate the scores, get a higher score than they deserve, and potentially improve their scores by using some special words that they've learned recently, or maybe using some more complicated grammar structures that they're not comfortable using. Now, obviously, if you go and use vocab and grammar you're not familiar with, you're more likely to actually make mistakes than if you're using the language you're comfortable with. So what happens to a lot of students then is they try to use difficult language, don't get as good a vocab or grammar score as they're capable of, because now they're making more mistakes. They're getting a lower fluency score because they're spending more time thinking about vocab and grammar, which means they have to stop and think more often. They need to speak more slowly, that type of thing. So that's probably one of the most common mistakes I've seen recently. So students trying to use difficult language. And the other thing then is where students are trying to use difficult ideas. So they feel like if they can use difficult ideas, they're going to get a higher score, because I suppose what happens is they have been maybe studying for the writing test, and in the writing test it's an academic essay. You need to have ideas that are relevant and specific. You need to develop those ideas appropriately, and there's quite a strict way that you need to write the essay and discuss your ideas. And a lot of people feel that kind of structure and that academic type of writing that carries into the speaking test. So they end up trying to use ideas that they're not their real opinions. Instead of saying this is what I think, they feel like, oh, what I really think, that's too informal, or it's not good enough, or it's not academic enough. So instead of giving their real opinions, then they're given ideas. They're trying to create ideas that they think sound good. and it's not necessary, and it just makes things more complicated. And again, that affects their fluency, because now all their time is going trying to think of what to say instead of just kind of letting it flow and say what you really think. So in the speaking test, it's not academic. If you speak in an informal style, that's fine. If you speak in a formal style, that's fine. Whatever way you would normally speak is how you should speak in the test. So you don't want to overcomplicate things. And, you know, if one of your friends asked you the same question that you get in the IELTS test, just imagine, like, what would you say if you were just chatting with your friend? That's probably the most honest answer you can give. And it's okay to say whatever you would have said to your friend is okay to say in the IELTS test. So you don't need to change your ideas, or you don't need to come up with any particular structure to your answers. Just kind of let it flow, like whatever way you would normally answer the question, just do it that way. So a lot of it is, you know, try not to make it more complicated. That's a lot of it as well. Okay, so I've one message from Hap IELTS Gum Tui. Hi Tui. Evening to you from Vietnam. Yeah, welcome to the lesson. Good to see you here. Okay, and I have Ty has joined me here as well. Ty, you'll have to turn on your camera first for me, please, and then we'll get you in here. Okay, so
Yeah, so
hey,
here I
Ty.
am. Hello.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you very clearly.
Lovely job. Sorry, no, just let me try and organize my screen here. Okay. Where are you from, Ty?
I'm from Vietnam.
Oh, very good. And can you just tell me, sorry, I'm trying to get this screen right. Can you tell me, there we go. What score are you aiming for, Ty?
You mean in speaking?
In speaking is right, yeah.
Well, I think I'm aiming for an 8.
Why do you need such a high score?
Well, it's just my desire,
Sure,
because I kind of like speaking, and I have been practicing speaking for such a long time. So
sure.
I guess that's the score that I'm aiming for.
Okay, fair enough. All right, so we're just going to do a few part 3 questions, and then I'll have some feedback for you after that. So we're going to talk about online reviews. Okay, so why do you think some people like leaving online reviews?
Oh, I think there's several reasons for people to leave online reviews. The first thing is the demand for them to express their own opinion. For example, if they go for a movie, they want to show people how they feel about the movie, and also it's because they want to give other people a quick look at the thing that they are reviewing. So like, is it a good idea to go for a movie or to buy a certain product?
And do you think people are more likely to leave positive reviews or negative reviews?
Well, I mean, it depends. I do think that it depends on the thing that they are giving the review. For example, it's really good one, like it has good quality, then people will be willing to give a really positive review. However, when it comes to something that, um, give them a bad experience, then I think they will just give a negative one.
And when somebody is going to buy a product online, how reliable do you think the reviews are?
Well, like 4 or 5 years ago, I would say that it's pretty good to read a review online, because back then everything was quite genuine. People give good review, I mean, from their own experience. And however, now I would say that it's a little bit different because of the intervention of AI and chatbots a lot. So there's a lot of comments online now are generated comment from AI, or just some kind of robots. So I think now it's less reliable than before.
What do you think shoppers should do about that?
That's an interesting question. I didn't think about this before, but I guess they should do more reviewing about the products by not only looking at the reviews online, but they should also watch video reviews, maybe on some social media platforms like YouTube or TikTok, and just focus on the one with the you know the good reviews on those platforms. It will give us a very good uh, view about that product, or they can also ask for recommendation from friends and families. I think those are also very trustworthy sources of information.
Thank you. Okay, so your English is obviously very strong. You're very comfortable speaking in English. Lots and lots of strengths.
Thank you.
You're not making many mistakes with vocab and grammar, and you tend to have the vocab and grammar you need to express your ideas clearly. You've got a good range and a good level of accuracy. With your pronunciation, the issue that comes up kind of most often is your pronunciation of the L sound. So L like in the word also and L in the word people, where you pronounce that like a W instead of an L.
Okay.
So you'll end up saying also instead of all so. So that like where your tongue needs to go up behind your teeth, it's not. You're making a kind of a like this shape with your mouth when you need to make a this shape with your mouth. So that's one pronunciation area that you might want to consider. And then for fluency, you pause and hesitate a little bit too much. Whether it's you're thinking of vocab or maybe you're thinking about ideas or whatever it would be. So when you're pausing and hesitating, do you think it's more often you're trying to think of vocabulary or you're trying to think of ideas or maybe grammar? Or what do you think it is?
Most of the time it's because of the ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes because of vocabulary as well.
Mm-hmm.
But most of the time it's because of ideas. I just want to choose the best ideas that I could, say. So it's
Yeah.
pretty, yeah.
So this is what I was talking about just before you joined me here. Like the best idea doesn't get you the best score, and the examiner doesn't really care whether your ideas are good or bad. Like that's not part of my assessment. So if your ideas are good or bad, that won't change your score. If the information's even incorrect, that won't change your score. So good or bad, right or wrong, formal or informal, interesting or boring, whatever, that doesn't change your score because I'm just checking your fluency, vocab, grammar, pronunciation. So if you have multiple ideas in your head, which one would be easiest to talk about is probably a better choice than which one sounds the best.
Okay. Okay.
I think as well, like just naturally when you're speaking in English, you probably speak about the same things a lot. So you're going to talk about your interests, your hobbies, your family. If you use English at work, you're probably talking about the same, work related topics all the time. So what happens in the IELTS test is you end up talking about things that you would normally never talk about. Even in Vietnamese, you probably haven't discussed online reviews ever in this way. So part of preparing for the IELTS test is just doing lots of practice, but practicing with IELTS questions that you've never seen before. So you're getting practice at discussing these topics that you've never thought of before. You get more comfortable with deciding what you want to say, coming up with your ideas, and you don't need as much time to kind of think about what you want to say. So those would be the two main things that I'd like you to work on. Kind of work on your fluency by practicing with unfamiliar topics, and then work on the pronunciation of that L sound as well. For you, it tends not to be at the start. So like when you said the word leave, the L is at the start, that's no problem. It tends to be more like when it's in the middle and at the end that you need to work on it. Okay, so those are the main things that I need to talk about based on your answers. Do you have any questions for me or any things you'd like to talk about?
Well, what if, I know in IELTS there's a lot of kind of weird topics. However, what if I have to answer about a topic that I don't really have knowledge about? It's very hard to talk about.
You can just tell the truth. You can say why you don't know. You can talk about like, why is it you have no knowledge about that topic? You know, so can you give me an example of a question, or maybe you won't be able to remember, but can you, at the moment, can you think of any question that you saw before that you felt that way, where you're like, okay, I really have no idea what I should be saying here? Can you recall any question that
Yeah, sure. So last time when I looked through a list of IELTS Speaking Part 3, I came across a very weird question. Like, I mean, it's weird for me.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, why do some people, why do some people want to find out more about their history of the family, the history of the family? Yeah, I was like, okay, I never thought of this before. You know.
So I mean, in that situation, you don't know the right answer to that situation, to that question, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, your options are, you know, saying that, you know, where you come from, you've never heard of anybody doing that before. And why do you think that is? You know, like maybe it's the fact that families are very close in your country. People tend to know their all their cousins, and you know, they know their grandparents, even some great grandparents. You know, families spend a lot of time together, and maybe they're a lot closer than they are in other countries. So for you, people would know it, like in your country, and you know, for you and your family, everybody kind of knows everybody already, so there's nothing really to learn. So maybe this is more a topic for, you know, in other Western countries where families aren't as close and they don't spend as much time together. So maybe they're interested because they want to know more about something that they don't know about. Whereas where I come from, that would never happen. So it could be, instead of kind of getting into the mind of the people, it's explaining why that would never be something that happens in your country, you know,
Oh,
or
okay.
you know, like that. So it doesn't have to be that you have the information. Your speaking score doesn't depend on you having the knowledge of the correct answer. I just need to hear you speaking. So if your answer is about why you don't know, or why that doesn't happen in your country or whatever, that's fine. You know, so it doesn't have to be like in the writing test where you're asked an idea, you have to come up with exactly an idea. You're asked a question, and you have to come up with exactly an idea that answers that question. That's how the writing test works. But in the speaking test, there's more freedom. So, you know, you can just explain why you don't know, and that's fine. But don't, like, you can't just say I don't know and then stop. That doesn't show how good your speaking is. But if you have a full answer about why you don't understand and talking about the way things are in your country, that's completely fine. So don't feel like you have to have the information. Just you have to answer the question with whatever you want to say about the topic. So maybe you just need to give yourself more freedom to discuss that topic in whatever way is, you know, comfortable for you, or
Yeah.
based on your own knowledge and experience, you know.
So I guess that's the strategy for like speaking part one or part three. What about
Yeah.
part two? Like, if you made a question like describe a astronomical event that you have experienced or observed before, it's
Yeah.
really hard to say like, no, I'm sorry, I never seen anything like that.
Yeah. I mean, you'd still have to figure out something to say. Of course, you can say I've never seen it. I've seen them on TV. I've seen them in movies. You could talk about what they've seen, how you would like to see them, why you've never seen them. You know, you could even talk about, like, I live in the middle of a city. There's always streets on. We can't even see any stars on a normal night. Um, None of my family lives in the countryside, so I've never spent a night in a place where there are no street lights. So, you know, you've all like, of course, it's not going to be as easy for you to talk about as someone who has experienced something like that. But the truth is, you're going to have to talk about it for 2 minutes. It's going to be easier to just tell the truth than creating a story. Because some people try to create a story and go, oh, yes, last week I saw a shooting star. And then they're about 3 sentences into the answer and they're just going, I have no idea what I'm going to say next. And you can see the stress on their faces. It's just like, it's so stressful trying to think of ideas, especially in a test where you're probably stressed already. So just being honest is going to be easier, and explaining why you've never seen one, how you would feel about it, whatever, you know, just something related to the topic. Um, but you're not going to instantly get a low score because you haven't had that experience. With that particular example that you've given, that wouldn't be a typical question they would ask in the real IELTS test, though, because I think most people wouldn't have seen something like that. So you probably found that on a website where, they're writing their own questions rather than based on questions that were found in the real test. But it's still a good example of, there will be, on very rare occasions, there will be questions based on an experience you've never had, and you just have to do the best you can. But like I said, base it on your real experience and knowledge, because that's easier to discuss.
Okay, thank you.
My pleasure. Nice talking to you, Ty. Take care of yourself. Bye.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so that's Ty. Doesn't seem to be anyone else joining me here at the moment. I'll wait another minute or two. If you want to join me again, you just look in the chat in the comments, and you'll see this link. You just click on that link, and then you'll be able to join me there. And if we have no one else joining, we'll just finish up here in the next minute or so. Like I said as well, if anyone has questions, of course, feel free to ask in the chat, and I'll be able to answer those for you. Okay, so it seems like that's it for today. Not as many as usual, but no harm. I'll be back next week. We'll do another live stream on another part of the IELTS test. And I have live feedback lesson tomorrow as well. If you want to join that, you'll see the link in the video description to join me tomorrow for that. And there's my email address. If you need one-on-one support and you're interested in joining my courses, feel free to reach out there as well. So yeah, a short one today,